Yasodanandana Rajana Ranjana Yasodanandana Rajana Ranjana Vanachari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Jaya Radha Madhava Kunja Bihari Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya Om Namah Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Hey, you know, I need a book. Oh, you got it? Hare Krishna. Thank you very much. Hare Krishna. Okay, great. Are we at text 12? Not text 13, text 12. Okay. So we're reading Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, chapter 19, text 12. Anye te Devarsi Brahmarshi Varya Rajarishi Varya Aruna Dayascha. Okay. Oh, okay, this one. Sukho Pavestesu. See, right now we're going to read the whole verse, right? Sukho Pasavateshu Atateshu Bhuya Krita Pranama Svacharichitam Jat Vignaya Payamasa Vivikta Cheta Upasito Gre Brigahita Parhi Sukha Pavestu Vatateshu Bhuya Krita Pranama Svachichishitam Yat Vignat Payamasa Vivikta Cheta Upasito Agre Brihita Pani Sukho Pavestu Vatateshu Bhuya Krita Pranama Svachikishititnyat Vigna Payamasa Vivikta Cheta Upasito Agre Brihita Pani
Sukho Pavestesh Vatateshu Bhuya
Sukho Pavestesh Vatateshu Bhuya
Pranama Svachikirsitam Yat
Krita Pranama Svachikirsitam Yat
Vigyapayama Savivikta Cheta
Vigna Payamasa Vivikta Cheta
Upastito Gre Vigrihita Pani
Upasito Agre Vihita Pani.
Sukopaviteshu vatateshu bhuya.
Sukopateshu atapateshu bhuya.
Krita pranamasva chikirshitang yat.
Krita pranama swakatistitam yat.
Vigyapayamasa vivikta cheta.
Vignapayama savitikta cheta.
Upashtito gre vigrihita pani.
Upasito agri brihita pani.
Sukopaviteshu vatateshu bhuya.
Sukopavesteshu atatateshu bhuya.
Krita pranama svachikirshitam yat.
Krita pranama swakatistitam yat.
Vigyapayama savivikta cheta.
Vignapayama savitikta cheta.
Upastito gre vigrihita pani.
Upasahito agri brihita pani.
Sukopaviteshu vatateshu bhuya.
Sukopateshu atatateshu bhuya.
Krita pranama svachikirshitam yat.
Krita pranama swakatishitam yat.
Vigyapayam asa vivikta cheta.
Vignapayama savitikta cheta.
Upashtito gre vigrihita pani.
Upasahito agri brihita pani.
Sukopaviteshu tateshu bhuya.
Sukopateshu atatateshu bhuya.
Krita pranama svachikirshitam yat.
Krita pranama swakatistitam yat.
Vigyapayama savivikta cheta.
Vignapayama savitikta cheta.
Upastito gre grihita pani.
Upasahito agri brihita pani.
Sukopaviteshu vatateshu bhuya.
Sukopateshu atatateshu bhuya.
Krita pranama svachikirshitam yat.
Krita pranama swakatistitam yat.
Vignapayam asha vivikta cheta.
Vignapayama savitikta cheta.
Upashtito gre vigrihita pani.
Upasito agri brihita pani.
Sukopaviteshu vatateshu bhuya.
Sukopateshu atatateshu bhuya.
Krita pranama svachikirshitam yat.
Krita pranama swakatistitam yat.
Vigyapayama savivikta cheta.
Vignapayama savitikta cheta.
Upastito gre vigrihita pani.
Upasito agri brihita pani.
Sukopaviteshu vatateshu bhuya.
Sukopateshu atatateshu bhuya.
Krita pranama svachikirshitam yat.
Krita pranama swakatistitam yat.
Vigyapayama savivikta cheta.
Vignapayama savitikta cheta.
Upashtito gre vigrihita pani.
Upasito agri brihita pani.
Sukopaviteshu vatateshu bhuya.
Sukopateshu atatateshu bhuya.
Krita pranama svachikirshitam yat.
Krita pranama swakatistitam yat.
Vigyapayama asha vivikta cheta.
Vignapayama savitikta cheta.
Upashtito gre vigrihita pani.
Upasito agri brihita pani.
Sukopaviteshu vatateshu bhuya.
Sukho Patiteshu Atateshu Bhuya.
Krita pranama swachikirshitam yat.
Krita Pranama Swakushititam Yat.
Vigyapayam asavivikta cheta.
Vignapayama Savikitata.
Upastito grebhigrihita pani.
Upashito Agre Prihitapani.
Sukho paviste vatate shubuya.
Sukho Patiteshu Atateshu Bhuya.
Krita pranama svachikrisitam yat.
Krita Pranama Swakushititam Yat.
Vigna payama shavivikta cheta.
Vignapayama Savikitata.
Upastito gre pigrihita panihi.
Upasahito Agre Prihitapani.
Sukopaviste swatate shubuya.
Sukho Patiteshu Atateshu Bhuya.
Krita pranama swachikirshitam yat.
Krita Parama Swakutistitam Yat.
Vigyapayama savavikta cheta.
Vignapayama Savivikta.
Upastito gre vigrihita pani.
Upashito Agre Prihitapani. Is everyone chanting? Anyone online like to chant? So we'll chant the word by word synonyms. Sukha, happily. Upateshu, all sitting down. Ata, thereupon. Teshu, unto them, the visitors. Bhuya, again. Krita pranama, having offered obeisances. Swa, his own. Chikirshitam, decision of fasting. Ya, who jnana payam asa, submitted. Vivikta cheta, one whose mind is detached from worldly affairs. Upasitaha, being present. Agre, before them. Abhigrihita pani, humbly with folded hands. Translation. After all the rishis and others had seated themselves comfortably, the king, humbly standing before them with folded hands, told them of his decision to fast until death. Purport. Although the king had already decided to fast until death on the bank of the Ganges, he humbly expressed his decision to elicit the opinions of the great authorities present there. Any decision, however important, should be confirmed by some authority. That makes the matter perfect. This means that the monarchs who ruled the earth in those days were not irresponsible dictators. They scrupulously followed the authoritative decisions of the saints and sages in terms of Vedic injunction. Maharaj Perskit, as a perfect king, followed the principles by consulting the authorities, even up to the last days of his life. So yeah, that's a very nice enlightening purport. So that the kings, the Raja Rishis, they took counsel of the Brahmanas. So nowadays, that's not possible. They're not doing that. We distribute our books. We're hoping that many people will take Prabhupada's elaborate purports and the principles into serious consideration when making their specific decisions or law passing like that. Maybe the pass laws that are ethical and not what. There was a class who was that it was Ananda. He said they pass crappy laws and find crappy solutions to all their crappy problems. Which pretty much sums it up, and that's Kali Yuga. But here, the Raja Rishis, they took counsel of the great sages, and so here he's informing the great sages why he's there on bank of the Ganges at Namasaranya that he has made his decision to fast until death. Jaya Gora Nitai Ki Jai. So I was listening to some lectures. There's a website online. It's SrimadBhagavatamclasses.com. And so he made some really good points. There's a verse in Bhagavad Gita that those who are on this path are resolute in purpose and their aim is one. Those who are not resolute in purpose, their aim is, their intelligence is many-branched. So here we see that they're pointing out that Maharaj Pushkar, he had made his decision, and it was a staunch decision. He was resolute in purpose, and his aim was one, like that. So he was talking about how generally, I guess in the next verse also that we were talking about, there's the saintly persons stay away from kings and moneyed men, people who are attached to money, and especially those who are women mongers and drunkards. And so they had arrived there just to inform the king what is the actual sacrifice, what is the purpose, what is the great sacrifice. So as we were reading before the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, there's verses where the saints are saying, well, our bodies are blackened by the fire. It's the beginning of Kali Yuga. We're not really sure if our mantras are effective or not. So what is actually the best sacrifice? And that was actually anonymously agreed upon, is to hear the topics of Godhead at great length. To hear the pastimes, the activities of the incarnations of the Supreme Personality of Godhead and the pure devotees. So many different processes are explained in Srimad Bhagavatam, but it's all devotional service. Even Lord Kapila Dev, we were speaking about that verse last night, Api Vayu, earth, water, fire, earth, water, fire, air, ether, mind, intelligence, false ego. Altogether, these comprise my separated material energies. So you break down the material elements. It's really very highly scientific. Prabhupada calls it in the modern days, they call it metaphysics. But it's called the analytical study of material nature, or Sankhya philosophy. But real Sankhya philosophy is devotional service, not an atheistic Sankhya philosophy propounded by an imposter Kapila. But we study the Devahuti Kapila, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so the modern scientists, they're looking at what's observable with our imperfect, blunt, material senses, right? So many people, when they talk about religion or God or putting your faith into some higher power that you actually have no direct experience with, but we do have a direct experience through devotional service, but that's would be unscientific to accept something that you can't observe in science. They're just observing what can be observed. And so they have so many different testing methods, and they have like so many lights and filters, and they look at the universe in so many different ways, and there's so many different types of lights or different screens or filters. Measure gases, measure liquids, measure solids, rocks and dust and sand, but they can experience another, if it were to be a multi-dimensional universe, that we're the ones that are perceiving things in an impersonal way, that we just see a sun disk, but it's actually a chariot being drawn by horses. And these horses, they're the names of the syllables of the Gayatri. And the wheel is the wheel of time. So Prabhupada was talking about time. It's the eternal time factor. It's divided into 3 phases, and we probably all understand this: past, present, and future, like that. So that's the material time. It takes away everything. Every point Prabhupada was making is that everything has its fixed time. So that's what we're looking at in the universe, everything that has come into manifestation in its own fixed time. So many things are coming and so many things are going. As they post some articles or some videos, they're pretty excited. They're gonna witness like an explosion of a star or supernova or something, something really big and phenomenal like that. But can they actually really penetrate into the actual real planet, the actual real life on the planet? That there's life on the sun planet, and there's life on the moon planet. The moon is described as being made of ivory and gold, and inhabitants that are there. There's the Chanaras, the Kanaras, the Siddhas, the Gandharvas. So that's what's taking place, and they have the Brahminical culture. As we were reading in the beginning of Srimad Bhagavatam, Narada Muni was saying a long, long, long time ago. Actually, it was like many, many, many creations ago. That's how long time ago it was. That he was in Gandharva, in the heavenly planet, very, very beautiful and opulent. And he had been cursed by the Brahminical sages that they were performing a Sankirtan Jaga of glorification of the Supreme Personality of Godhead or Narayan. So they're pious in the heavenly planets. They worship Narayan and they have Sankirtan Jaga. So that's why Narada Muni was cursed, because he was singing his Gandharva material songs in the assembly. So he got a curse, but he also got a blessing. He was cursed to take the birth of a Sudra. And so, but he got to serve some great Mahabhagavats. And he asked them once if he could take the remnants of their food stuff. So he asked first, and they had given him permission. So he did that. So they saw that he was simple, well-behaved. He was mild. Wasn't too rambunctious. So I guess what was it? It used to be a show on TV called Kung Fu with David Carradine. So they were kind of showing like in the beginning, in the pilot, right? He was standing in the courtyard, right? And he was standing in the rain. And then it was fair weather, and all the kids, they were playing with their kids' toys, the dice or whatever they're doing. They're sporting. Right, and he was just standing there. He didn't get involved with the things that were going on in the village. He didn't start sporting with the other youngsters. He was just standing there, right? He didn't flinch and go away in the rain. He just stood there in the rain. So they saw that he was serious. Like his intelligence was resolute. His aim was one, like that. It wasn't being distracted. So they kind of remind me a lot about Narada Muni. How they were saying that he was well behaved, he wasn't naughty, he was submissive, like that. So those were his good qualifications, and so he was fortunate that. And then he took the instructions of the sages. He heard them their discourses on the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And so he had become perfected by following their instructions. And he said it was just like thunder and lightning occurring simultaneously. And so we can benefit by the instructions of Narada Muni. So we can be very, very careful to remain resolute in purpose. So that was the whole process, that the saintly persons, they don't associate with the kingly order, the Raja Rishis, like that. Today's the monarchy is practically abolished. Where these, the parliament, the Congress, presidents, prime ministers, like that, moneyed men, their association is undesirable. They were talking about how Prabhupada, he often refers to the patient in the hospital. If he's sick, then the doctor gives him a rest, proper diet and medicine. So it's the same thing was the proper medicine is devotee association and serving the devotees and taking prasadam and engaging in the process and chanting Hare Krishna. So that's the conducive environment, like the conducive environment hospital where one can get plenty of rest. So the temple, that's the conducive environment to associate with the devotees. In fact, the devotional qualities and the proper medicine, taking Krishna prasad and chanting Hare Krishna, singing the deities. Basically, there are verses in Srimad Bhagavatam that the eyes of those who do not see the beautiful form of the Archa Vigraha, of the deity in the temple, their eyes are just as worthless as the eyes on the plumes of the peacocks. And they can have many eyes, but they're worthless, not real eyes. So then the breathing of such a person is no better than the breathing of the bellows. You know what the bellows are? Is like that big umbrella breathing apparatus that blows air onto the fire. You know, you see them in the smith shops, you know, when they're hammering the metal, you know, making things. So those are the bellows. No better than the breathing of the bellows, right? Or the ears that don't hear the transcendental topics of the glories of Godhead is no better than those of the ears, the holes of snakes, where the snakes live. Like that. You know, hearing rubbish, gramya kata, no better than where the snakes live. Like that. So in this way, there's like so many different sensual perceptions that are completely worthless. The head of the king who has his crown is completely worthless. Oh, if he doesn't bow his head to the great devotees of the personality of Godhead or the deity in the temple, he doesn't bow his head, even though it may be decorated with a big crown. It's just simply worthless decorations like that. So these things are described. So we take the instructions of Srimad Bhagavatam, even politically and scientifically. You know, it's like, you know, even if one wants to say, well, you know, it's kind of hard to accept the Vedic cosmology, you know, the Srimad Bhagavatam's description of the universe. But it's like what we're going to be getting in the second chapter, second canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. We're talking about creation, how there's the Garbhodak waters, and the Supreme Lord in the form of Vishnu. There's three Vishnus. The Garbhodak water is in the bottom of each and every universe that emanates from the bodily pores of Mahavishnu or Karanadakshay Vishnu in the Karanadaksha ocean. So then there's the Garbhodak ocean. The Garbha, Haranya Garbha. Right, yeah, it's, I believe it refers to like the planetary universal manifestations, Haranya Garbha. So the Garbhodak oceans, the Garbhodak waters. So, the lotus stem sprouts from the navel of Garbhodakshay Vishnu. So this is good meditation. Meditate on Vishnu's four arms, holding conch shell, disc, lotus flower, and club. So even just meditate on these descriptions, and meditate on Vishnu, the larger than the largest, and the smaller and smallest, Vishnus within each and every atom. And Krishna says, all things rest on me as pearls are strung on a thread. So you're talking about atomic composition. There's so many millions and millions of atomic atoms, and they are combined and larger enough by mechanical means and methods. There are molecules, and the molecules they are specifically combined. Like what was it? It's H2O. 2 molecules of hydrogen to 1 molecule of oxygen make water. And then air is just the other way around. It's O2H. That's why water and air, hydrogen and oxygen, you know, basically oxygen is associated with air. Jai Gaur Nitai Ki Jai. So there's a specific arrangement. So if you're saying 2 molecules of oxygen to 1 molecule of hydrogen, So that's one thing that Prabhupada was talking about in the laboratory for the scientist for his passing grades. He has to make some water. Like that. So basically that's really the transformation process. Basically they taught us how to make some water when I was in the Navy. They were telling us to dig a hole and take a piece of plastic, put it over the hole, and put in a collection container in the center and push the plastic down a little bit so the water will come down and will drip and go in the. So what we're doing, we're condensing the water from the air that's already in the hole that we dug. We're just condensing that. It's just evaporating or condensing because of the heat of the sun and collecting on top of the plastic and then just coming down. So, Prabhupada, he said so many different times, there's already so many ants. Can you just create one ant? Like that. So this you cannot do. This either will be able to create life. Actually, they're just manipulating specific elements. Maybe do some gene therapy, some genetic modifications on some organisms. We have the artificial insemination, but it's everything that's already there. They're just manipulating the energy that's already there, and then it's planted into the womb of a mother surgically. Like that, but it's something that they've been doing on farms for a long, long time, already. They just kind of complicated the process a little bit, where they're manipulating the seeds of the crops, their genetic modifications, their artificial seeds that they sell to the farmers. Basically, I looked it up and see how they actually make these, and it's actually a small little seedling of an actual real plant, and they're being some glue adhesive is being inside of some sunflower seed shells. So these are their artificial seeds, but apparently, I guess they believe that they get a higher yield, but their genetic modification is failing. I remember they were telling me at work that there's some milk coming out to the market, and this has been untested. They don't know what the effects are on humans, but they gave the cows some injections of something to make them produce more milk. It was a hormone. Yeah, that's what they were. Yeah, they're hormones, and so they gave you the option to take the milk that it doesn't have the hormone. They said the milk on this side does not have the hormone. Milk on this side has the hormone. And they were saying, well, generally it's safe. They were saying all this stuff, but it's been untested. They don't even know what the effects of this will be. But the cows got sick. They stopped producing milk, and they got sick and they died. And not only that, but they were saying that this is the foolishness of the materialists, is that there really wasn't an issue. There wasn't the shortage of milk in the first place, so they really didn't need to start manufacturing a bunch of cows that make more milk. Like that. So, that's their meddling process. So, you can see, very easily how certain things are. But things would occur and take place anyways. Srimad Bhagavatam states that in the age of Kali, how so much degradation will take place that the trees will produce seed and skin, and there won't be any more milk, and there won't be grains and vegetables, and no sugar. Practically nothing in the mode of goodness. They'll be resorting to cannibalism, like that. So the environment is so wrecked. But by the influence of the age of Kali, these things, they're progressive. So that's, we take this into consideration that this is truth. We can see how things are becoming degraded. And we can probably see how through the genetic research and through these blunders with those hormones and things like that that the material energy could be very easily degraded, and compromised. Things can break down. So now there's more disease. Actually, what I looked up online, they were saying something that the coronavirus had actually been in existence that they know of, like 1200 CE. So nothing's new. But they were talking about how they believe that there's an attempt at global depopulation. And so these are all the same things: burn their homes, wreck the food supply. The medical association, the medical supply is corrupt. We got like horrible, terrible medicines, and we're not being treated properly for our specific conditions. So, we have our, we're kind of resorting to more like self-reliance. So that's really pretty much, our farm communities, are demonstrating that. Cow protection, agriculture. We have our Gurukul schools for our children. And so to make the model society, how in Vedic times, the devotees, they just simply live simply on the farms and continued the process and made everything themselves. And the currency was bartering. So they had the rice fields, then they can trade their rice and their grains, or someone for fruits and vegetables, or someone who grows cotton and makes clothing and cloth. So all these things were all traded and sold by barter. Actually, there was a description, I was talking about this the other day, and when we were in Raman Brady, they described this pastime of Krishna that took place there in these fields. They said that Krishna was milking a cow, and the gopis, the Radharani and the gopis, the young girls of Vrindavan, they started coming through there carrying their clay pots on their heads, and they had butter and yogurt and milk, and they were taking it to market, right? So this is what made me remember that, is that they were selling or bartering their milk products. So they were taking their milk products to market. And then Krishna, he slapped the cow like, yeah. And the cow went like crazy, was running like all over the place. And the gopis were all running around there trying to hold their milk and their butter and their yogurt, and it was spilling over, and their clothes was getting wet, and parts of their bodies were becoming visible through their clothing. And so then they're angry. They're angry at Krishna. They're talking about how there's this black bumblebee by the name of Krishna. But what Prabhupada was talking about, the gopis, they didn't put any formal complaints against Krishna. Like when Krishna stole the garments from the gopis. Although they were embarrassed, but it was to fulfill their desire to be Krishna's wives. But they didn't go back to the village and post a complaint, like that. I guess nowadays we have human resources department. You can go and complain to the human resource directors if there's unwanted advances, or looks or sneers or comments, things like that. But they didn't go and complain about Krishna. They just talked about simple, wonderful Krishna. Like that, Krishna is just so wonderful. So we can look forward to this, being with Krishna in 5 loving relationships as neutrality, servitorship, parental affection, friendship, and conjugal love. So are there any questions or comments, or you had a question?
Hare Krishna. Please accept my humble obeisances and thank you for the nice class. You're so versed in the Bhagavatam. So I have a question, but we don't have to answer it if we don't have time. But it's about the sun and time calculation. In Canto 3, Chapter 11, Text 5, Translation, it says the division of gross time is calculated as follows. 2 atoms make 1 double atom, and 3 double atoms make 1 hex atom. This hex atom is visible in the sunshine, which enters through the holes of a window screen. One can clearly see that the hex atom goes up towards the sky. Then the purport is, the atom is described as an invisible particle, but when 6 such atoms combine together, they are called a Trasharenu. And this is visible in the sunshine pouring through the holes of a window screen. And in the next text, is translation. The time duration needed for the integration of 3 Trasharenus is called a Truti, and 100 Trutis make 1 Vedha, 3 Vedhas make 1 lava. Purport. It is calculated that if a second is divided into 1,687.5 parts. Each part is the duration of a Truti, which is the time occupied in the integration of 18 atomic particles. Such a combination of atoms into different bodies creates the calculation of material time. The sun is the central point for calculating all different durations. So my question is, one, I'd love to hear your knowledge about this, and what's really the difference between our material time, which seems to be linear and can never be gotten back once it's been used, versus spiritual time?
Oh yeah, spiritual time gives freshness and gives newness to everything. Where in material time, it gives everything decay and everything comes to an end. Like that, but in the spiritual world, everything becomes more fresh and more new and more youthful and more blissful and more happier and more intense, just at every moment. But have you ever seen like when you have the window open, you have the screen, and you're seeing like it kind of looks like a prismatic diamond kind of shape?
I've been trying to like reimagine it, but I can't actually say that I remember exactly.
Ever seen that? Yeah.
I know I've seen it, but I don't have like the image
Yeah,
of
through
that
the holes of the
actually.
screen. Yeah, because the holes are really small. I guess it's some sort of a refraction. We're not actually seeing, the actual atoms at this, but it's like a representation, or it's amplified by the light. So we're talking about like how the movements of the sun calculated by the atom, like that. So you're saying in a moment, there's like, what would you say, there's like millions of thousands of Trutis, and that makes, a specific segment of so many different atoms, like that. So that's describing the movements of the sun. Not only that, but the axle of the chariot of the wheel of the sun god. This chariot has one wheel, and the axle is affixed to the pole star, to Dhruva. It goes across the universe. So then it pivots on this specific axle, like that. And it also describes that the axle is made of air, like that. So, it's a nice way to meditate, think about Krishna and Vishnu, and meditate on the Vedic cosmology, the Vedic description of the universe. There's Karanadakshay Vishnu, who's lying on Karanadakshay waters, and all the universes are emanating from his bodily pores just in one breath, and his yoga nidra, his creative sleep, like that, we call it yoga nidra. So it's just all within one breath, right? And so then everything is inhaled again into his body and his inhalations. So you can see how big and great and enormous they are, that just in one breath, the creation, the life of Brahma of a universe is 3,011,000,000 years. So we can hardly even imagine holding our breath that long. Like that. So that was a good question. Are there any other questions or comments? Or okay, we can end class there. Srimad Bhagavatam class ki jai.